Okay, so let's start with the scene. It's March 1862. You have to picture this. We're over Fort Monroe in Virginia.
The Civil War is raging.
Exactly. And the Union officers there are seeing something that is just a total revolution. It's not scouts on horseback, it's not spies.
Yeah.
It's the hydrogen balloon, the Constitution, and it's just rising up over the mist. And from that basket, these guys suddenly have a God mode view of the Confederate lines.
It's a radical advantage. I mean, they're spotting artillery, troop movements, intent, things no one on the ground could possibly know.
It's the birth of modern military intelligence.
It absolutely is. ISR intelligence, surveillance, and reconnaissance, it starts right there. Vision completely changes command. It accelerates every single decision. And this is the core of what we're talking about today.
Here's the tension.
Exactly. When sight gets that easy, the moral weight gets a whole lot heavier. When your technology lifts your eye faster than your virtue can keep up, who sets the limits?
And that's the real subject of this deep dive. This isn't just a history lesson about, silk and hydrogen. It's about the moral line that starts at Fort Monroe and runs straight to the AI-driven warfare of today.
Right.
We're going to be exploring this really unique ethical training that's been pioneered at Langley Air Force Base. It's the Catholic Men of the Chapel and the Catholic Military Apostolate.
What they're doing is taking the traditional military staff ride.
And turning it on its head.
They're twisting it into something called the spiritual fitness staff ride. It's all about mastering what they call the ethics of lethal vision.
Okay, so to really get how big of a deal this was in 1862, we have to understand what came before it.
For sure. I mean, for 5,000 years before this moment, warfare was basically lethal blind man's bluff. Every commander, from Caesar to Napoleon, was a prisoner of the horizon.
A tactical cage.
A tactical cage, exactly.
Yeah.
The battlefield was blind. That was the one thing everyone shared.
So you had to get creative to, just peek over that horizon. I love that old story about the Chinese general Hun Jin.
Oh, from 200 BC. It's incredible, right?
Yeah.
He's in a siege, and instead of ladders or spies, he uses a kite. He measures the kite string as it goes over the enemy wall.
Calculate the distance for a tunnel.
And that is the first ever recorded GOINT mission.
Yeah.
Geospatial intelligence. He proved that if you control the sky, you control the ground.
Which is precisely what Thaddeus Lowe does 2,000 years later over Washington, D.C. in 1861 with his balloon, the Enterprise.
And Lowe's real genius wasn't just getting up in the air. It was connecting the eye to the command post. He ran a telegraph wire from the basket all the way to the ground.
He sent the first military live stream.
A live stream message straight to President Lincoln. He basically just deleted the fog of war.
And that compression of time going from just seeing something to actually acting on it, that must have felt like science fiction.
It was. It completely collapsed the ODA loop.
Observe, orient, decide, act.
Right. Before Lowe's, that could take days. Lowe's squeezed it down to minutes. The Union Army got this massive decision advantage just by seeing better and faster.
So that brings us back to Fort Monroe, March 1862, with the balloon Constitution. Now, Lowe isn't just watching, he's in the fight.
He's in the kill chain. He spots Confederate artillery hidden behind these thick tree lines. Targets that are totally invisible to the Union gunners on the ground.
And he uses the telegraph.
To direct their fire. He's adjusting their aim in real time. This is it. This is the birth of indirect fire directed from the sky. You can now hit an enemy you can't even see.
And the intel product is immediate. There's a guy up there, Colonel William Small, and he's sketching the first ever military map from the air. He's correcting the ground surveys, labeling batteries A, B, C.
That little paper sketch is the direct ancestor of every digital map overlay an ISR operator uses today.
But at 1,000 feet up, that's where the moral problem starts.
It is, because Lowe could see more than just cannons. He could see into the private lives of these soldiers. He could see them writing letters, praying.
He had to face what the sources call the discipline of the target.
The absolute obligation to distinguish military necessity from, basic human dignity. The power to delete a coordinate on a map suddenly came with this huge moral burden of knowing there's a person standing on that coordinate.
And that idea that you need this profound internal discipline when technology gives you that God mode view, that's exactly why this staff ride model is so important.
Precisely. The staff ride goes way back, but it was really formalized in the 18th century. Frederick the Great in Prussia, he'd do these terrain walks.
Linking the ground to the tactics.
Exactly. But it was Karl von Clausewitz in his book on war who really laid out the philosophy. He argued that the only way for leaders to build real judgment is to study real choices made under pressure, to walk the ground where it all happened.
It gets you past the theory.
It has to. Clausewitz saw that the terrain, the actual ground, makes the consequences of a decision totally concrete. It teaches you how to think, how to respond under duress, not just what to memorize from a manual.
So the modern version, the one the U.S. military uses, was set up by Helmuth von Moltke the Elder. It's got 3 phases,
A
right?
very disciplined method. First is preliminary study, you read the maps, you study the history. Then field study, you physically walk the ground. And finally, integration. You reflect.
Learn, walk, reflect.
Yes. And the innovation at Langley with these spiritual fitness staff rides is that they took that exact structure but shifted the focus entirely.
So it's not about tactics anymore.
Not primarily. It's about the ethical decisions. They link the terrain and the history directly to the principles of use in below the rules in war.
So instead of debating if a flanking maneuver was brilliant, you're debating if it was just. You're confronting necessity, distinction, proportionality, humanity.
Right, where those principles were either upheld or, violated. It turns ethics from this abstract checklist into something real, something you can stand on and feel. It trains you to apply strength with discipline.
The history of Langley Field itself is a perfect example of this tension between technology and character. It was founded in 1917, partly for the Army Balloon School.
We were trying to industrialize what Lowe had started, create this whole lighter-than-air fleet for long-range surveillance.
But that legacy, it has a huge moral warning sign right in the middle of it. The Roma disaster.
1922.
Yeah.
The Roma was this massive Italian airship the U.S. Army bought. It was cutting-edge stuff, but it ran on hydrogen. Extremely volatile.
And despite a lot of warnings about its stability, about the danger of the hydrogen, professional vanity just pushed it too far.
They pushed the system past its limits. The machine was faster and more dangerous than their ability to control it. The rudder failed, it hit high-voltage power lines, and it just ignited. 34 men were killed.
The sources are really clear on this. It was a failure of leadership. Technical ambition just outran character.
The platform wasn't solid because the people managing it weren't solid.
And that tragedy is what forced the helium pivot. The U.S. military made this huge, expensive switch to non-flammable helium.
Which proves the lesson, right? It doesn't matter if it's a Civil War balloon or a modern satellite. The platform is only as solid as the character of the people running it.
Which brings this whole story right up to today, to the stratospheric chessboard.
Balloons are back. Big time. Along with solar-powered drones, these high-altitude things can give you a persistent, unblinking eye that satellites just can't match.
We all saw this play out in February 2023, the Chinese surveillance balloon that drifted right across the country.
And the F-22 that intercepted it was scrambled from Langley's first fighter wing, so the sky is still very much contested territory.
But the challenge now is it's just on a different scale. It's not one balloon anymore.
Not at all. Today's operators are facing the threat of swarms. That's swarming worldwide autonomous reconnaissance in the multi-domain system.
We're talking about maybe 200 autonomous drones or balloons at once?
Used to create mass disruption. So the job for the ISR wings at Langley isn't just to see the enemy anymore. It's to find the one surgical signal inside a hurricane of noise and disinformation.
And to do that, you need an ethical anchor. Something that works on duty and, maybe more importantly, off duty.
Because those lethal vision habits, they travel home with you. The sources really stress this. If a warfighter doesn't build a moral filter, they can start treating their own family like a target set.
That's a scary thought. I mean, how do you stop that? How do you prevent yourself from applying surveillance habits at home?
The training actually prepares for that.
Yeah.
It sets very hard boundaries, and they're defined by 3 core maxims. The first one is seek the target, not the person.
So the ethics of collection.
Exactly. It's tied to the principle of necessity. On duty, you have to audit your own intent. Am I looking for a valid military target, or is this just voyeurism? At home, the line is bright and clear. You respect private boundaries. You only intervene for a life safety threat, not to exert control.
Okay, what's Maxim 2?
Maxim 2. Use truth to guide, not to goad. This one is about the ethics of application. Proportionality. On a mission, you use the F2EA cycle.
And let's break that down. F2EA is find, fix, finish, exploit, analyze.
Right. It's the disciplined sequence for a strike. And the key part here is that fix-it stage, that mandatory pause to be absolutely sure. At home, it means you use truth to build a bridge, to restore peace. You don't weaponize a list of someone's failures just to win a fight.
That is a really powerful translation. Wow. Okay, and the third one?
Maxim 3. Master the tool, guard the soul. This is all about emerging tech, about AI. It demands fortitude. The human leader has to stay in charge of the AI. You got to be solid enough to never let the machine's speed override your conscience.
It comes back to commanding yourself. The sources say if a leader gives up their authority to a phone notification, or they're just scrolling while their kid is trying to talk to them.
Then you've already proven you're a passenger, not a pilot, in your own life.
So let's see how this plays out. Let's look at this high-stakes case study from the training materials.
Okay. We're in the SCAF at Langley, the Sensitive Compartmented Information Facility. We've got Specialist Jax. He's fighting this static wall of Chinese jamming, trying to monitor a drone swarm over the South China Sea. The feed is just noise.
And then the AI cuts right through it all. It flags a target, HVT mobile missile launcher, and the confidence score is pulsing on the screen, bright green, 99.8%.
His flight commander is on the comms, pushing for an immediate finish. He wants a win for the brass. And Jax feels that. He feels the reflex, the ambition, the thought of medals.
But something stops him. A memory.
The classic test of Maxim 3, right? The tool's speed versus the soul's discipline. And the memory that breaks through the adrenaline is his grandfather.
The retired chief master sergeant.
Yeah, and he just sees his grandfather at a family dinner, knocking Jax's smartphone face down on the table and saying, if you can't kill the signal here to see the person in front of you, you'll never have the guts to hold your ground when the machine starts lying to you in the chair.
That's the anchor.
That's the anchor. And that memory forces the human on it. Jax pulls back. He uses that F2EA cycle, and he slams on the brakes at fix. He knows that 99.8% is just. It's too clean. It's too perfect for the amount of jamming they're getting.
He thinks the AI has been spoofed.
He does. So he manually overrides the autonomous system. He ignores his commander's pressure, and he burns critical battery life for one long persistence pass. He's hunting for the truth himself, outside the AI's perfect little box.
And he finds it.
He finds it. The missile launcher is a heavy civilian crane. It's repairing a school roof that was damaged in a typhoon. The jamming didn't just blind the AI, it actively tricked it.
Jax chose restraint over aggression. He proved that command of the mission really does require command of the self.
And that case study just perfectly ties everything together all the way back to the Civil War Balloon Corps. Technical dominance means nothing without personal integrity. Jax won because he had the fortitude, the internal courage, to audit the data and stay the pilot, not the passenger.
Which leaves us with a final thought for you to take away. Thaddeus Lowe had one balloon to manage back in 1862. Today's ISR operators have to manage maybe 200 sensors in a swarm, and it's all flooded with disinformation.
So if mass is a tool for disruption,
does having more sensors, more data, actually make the truth harder to find? Does it require today's warfighter to have even greater internal discipline to find that one single surgical truth? That's the question they have to answer every single time they look at that screen.